1776, after declaring independence, the United States of America had to determine how they were going to govern themselves. The first written constitution was called the Articles of Confederation. Created in 1777, the Articles of Confederation created a government that had no president, no executive branch, no judiciary, and no way to tax the people. With no income, the federal government had no way to pay off debt from the Revolutionary War, except by requesting money from the states and selling land in the Northwest Territories. By 1787, the United States was in depression. Farmers, in particular, had a lot of debt, so Daniel Shays led a group of rebels to try to seize weapons and overthrow the government. Although Shays' rebellion was unsuccessful in overthrowing the government, it is significant because it forced the federal government to try to revise the Articles of Confederation to create a more powerful central government that would help the people. The result of the attempt to revise the Articles of Confederation was a whole new document called the United States Constitution. It was written in 1787, mainly by James Madison, who is often called the father of the Constitution. The Constitution has 6 goals and is based on 7 major principles.
The Preamble. The Preamble, or Introduction to the Constitution, lists the 6 goals for the United States government. Governor Morris was at the Constitutional Convention as a delegate from Pennsylvania. He wrote the inspiring preamble and helped write and edit much of the rest of the Constitution. He had the first line of the Constitution to read, "We are the people of the United States." The following 6 goals guided the Constitution framers as they created the new government. The first goal of the government was to form a perfect nation. Under the Articles of Confederation, the states functioned like independent nations, often disagreeing on defense and finances. The framers believed the states needed to agree to operate as a single country and to operate on major issues. The second goal of the government was to establish justice. For the framers, treating each citizen equally was a major principle. The Constitution provides a national system of courts to protect the people's rights and to hear cases involving violations and federal law and debates or problems among the states. The third goal of the government was to ensure domestic tranquility, to maintain law and order within the country, peace. The violent protestants of Shays' Rebellion in 1786 shocked Americans. The Constitution seeks to keep peace among the people.
Today we are going to talk about the last 3 of the 6 goals of the government as stated in the preamble. The 4th goal is to provide for the common defense. Under the Articles of Confederation, the nation's defense depended on state militias. The Constitution gives the federal government the power to control armed forces to protect the country and its citizens from attack. The 5th goal is to promote the general welfare, which means to help most of the people most of the time. The Declaration of Independence states that the purpose of government is to promote life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for the people of the nation. The Constitution includes to promote the general welfare, or well-being, of the people by maintaining order, protecting individual liberties, regulating commerce and bankruptcies, and promoting science and technology by granting patents. The 6th goal of the government is to secure the blessings of liberty, to make the people happy and free. The framers believed that preserving liberty should be a major goal for future generations. The Constitution guarantees that no American's basic rights will be taken away or for posterity. The 6 goals of the Constitution remain as important today as they were when the Constitution was written.
7 principles of the Constitution. The Constitution has 7 guiding principles or rules. Number 1, popular sovereignty. The people are the source of the government's power. The framers lived in a time when the kings believed that they had been awarded by God with the power to rule. The Constitution had a new idea that the government gets the authority to rule from the people. The preamble is the introduction of the Constitution. It was written by Governor Morris. It begins with the words, "We the people." This reflects the idea that it is the right of the people to govern themselves. The people are the ultimate source of the government's power.
Republicanism. People elect their representatives. Republicanism is the form of government that the framers decided to follow. Instead of having citizens directly participating in the government to help decide everything, citizens elect a representative to do the voting for them and represent their desires. Once elected, representatives must remain open to the opinions of the people they represent. In our republic, the people of each state vote for their representatives. Each state gets 2 members in the Senate and a number of representatives in the House of Representatives, based on the state's population. California has 53 representatives in the House of Representatives. California's representatives meet with the representatives from other states to debate about their ideas. The representatives discuss a topic until they come to an agreement, which sometimes becomes a law.
Principle number 4, federalism. In this government system, power is divided between national and state governments. What is federalism? It is the division and sharing of powers between the national and state governments. There are certain things that national and state governments can and cannot do. For example, the national government has the power to regulate interstate trade, set standard weights and measures, admit new states, create federal courts, declare war, and establish post offices. States have their own powers. States can make business laws, regulate trade in their own borders, establish school and local government, provide public safety, and make laws about marriage and divorce.
Based on the ideas of Baron de Montesquieu, the federal government is divided into 3 different branches. The first branch is the legislative. This is where the laws are written and can control the government spending, which is called appropriations. The second branch is the executive branch. This is where the president and the other officials carry out the laws and oversee what the nation does. The last branch is the judicial branch. This is where the judges decide what's right and make sure that the Constitution is functioning correctly. Checks and balances are a system that our government has so that our 3 branches, the executive, judicial, and legislative, watch over each other and make sure that none of them abuse their major powers. For example, let's pretend that the legislative branch wanted to pass a law saying that you can only drink Gatorade in public. The judicial branch can review that law and strike it down by saying that the law is unconstitutional, or the president can veto the law if it is approved by the House and the Senate. When the executive branch is getting out of control, the legislative branch and the judicial branch will watch the executive branch to see if they're doing their job right. When the judicial branch is making a Supreme Court ruling, the legislative branch and the executive branch will watch to make sure that justice is rightfully served. This system of checks and balances is made so that every branch watches the other, so that everything is fair and even within the government.
Individual rights are protected by the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, which is the first 10 amendments in the Constitution, written by James Madison in response to calls from several states for greater constitutional protection for individual liberties. The Bill of Rights lists specific prohibitions on governmental power. The Bill of Rights is a list of limits on government power. Some of the amendments in the Bill of Rights are: the First Amendment. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment or religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or the press or the right of the people peaceably to assemble, and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. What the First Amendment is trying to say is that the government cannot make a law that gives a certain religious preference over other religions or prohibits the reasonable practice of. For example, the government cannot allow public school funding for a Catholic school club, but not for an Islamic one. Also, if a particular religion, let's say, practices of human or animal sacrifice, that would be illegal because it's violating the rights of other humans and animals. Essentially, if the religion isn't infringing on the rights of others or breaks any established laws, the government cannot make a law that specifically targets a certain religion or group. This amendment also protects the rights of the people to peaceably assemble and political freedom of speech. Not all speech is protected under this amendment. Such actions as yelling bomb on a plane and inducting fear, panic, and provoking violence aren't protected.
Some other amendments include the Bill of Rights are Amendment 2, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms should not be infringed.
The Second Amendment is saying the government needs a military, and this amendment protects it. It also allows citizens of the country to bear arms within reason. Of course, non-adults cannot own weapons, and guns are now licensed, but if an adult wants to own a gun, he or she can if they take the proper steps. Amendment 4. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures should not be violated. No warrant shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the person or things to be seized. Property cannot be taken without a reasonable cause or suspicion. Amendment 5. No person should be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless they are shown before a grand jury, except in cases involving land or naval forces, or in the militia when in actual service in time of war or public danger. Nor shall any person be charged with the same offense twice, put in jeopardy of life or limb, shall not be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Nor shall private property be taken for public use without permission from owner. Basically, it is saying that citizens of the United States have a right to a trial with a jury. However, soldiers and other members of the military do not have the right necessarily to a jury. Amendment 5 also protects against double jeopardy, which means you can't be tried for the same crime under the same charges.
Amendment 6 states that all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury of the state and district wherein the criminal shall have been committed, which district shall have been previously ascertained by law and will be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation, to be confronted with the witnesses against him, to have compulsory process for obtaining witnesses in his favor, and to have the assistance of counsel for his defense. Amendment 6 is basically saying the citizens have the right to a speedy trial. Of course, many people nowadays do not find the judicial process speedy at all, but basically this process against people being held without knowing what they are being charged with for an excessive amount of time. Since the rights are written, the government cannot take away the natural rights of the people. The Constitution written in 1787 is still in effect today because it allows the government to deal with matters the framers never even thought of, like regulating trading through the internet. The Constitution contains provisions for transforming or attaching to the document. To amend the Constitution is difficult. More than 9,000 changes have been proposed, but only 27 have passed. Some notable amendments are Amendment 13, which allows slavery, Amendment 18, which prohibits the production, sale, or transportation of alcohol, Amendment 19, which gave women the right to vote, Amendment 21, which turned Amendment 18 because it proved too difficult to enforce, and Amendment 26, which guaranteed citizens the right to vote at the age of 18. However, the Constitution can be charged the 6 goals and seven major principles, and Bill of Rights that first appear in the document remain the same.